I have an important announcement to share with you guys. This is my last story for the evening. One thing that we've pointed out time and again on our channel, and this goes for a lot of other people as well. We understand that in numerous circumstances, it is not easy to speak truth to power, especially against Israel, because there are consequences that can be felt, especially when it comes to your livelihood. It's very real. There are people who have shared sentiments in private, people that I work with, people that are very affluent, quite frankly, that feel the exact same way we do. There are people out there in the upper class guys that feel the exact same way about Israel. But for them, their livelihood is too important, or in some cases, it's all they have, and they can't take that chance. Remember, we are a country, unlike Mexico, that doesn't have health care. We are a country, unlike Brazil, that doesn't have health care. We are a country, unlike Spain, Italy, or Japan. We don't have health care. So for so many people that depend on it, that are in the working class, they can't speak up the way they would like to, otherwise they lose their job and they have no health care. And that's just one prime example of what one has to face on a regular basis, even if they want to say what they really believe. But they know that if they do, they could be in trouble. And that is true for somebody who is trying to do everything in their capacity to try to find their place to where they can make a difference. And it's not easy to do that. I can safely say that when we went down this road, when we did our first live stream, I remember I was at my father's house in New Jersey. And Jen said, "Are you going to go down this road with me?" And I said, "Yes, I'll do it." And I just realized that if I didn't do it, I would be lying to myself. I wouldn't be true to myself if I didn't use the platform that I've built and use my oratory capability and leadership capability to speak truth to power in a way that maybe not a lot of others are capable of doing. In fact, over the past few days, I have had family members coming to my personal pages and writing incendiary, despicable, just outright slanderous messages about me and tagging people to try to get their attention, to try to draw me into the conversation. Well, I decided to just block them outright from social media, and I will have nothing to do with them ever again. I was never going to have anything to do with them again anyway, but now I don't even have to know that they exist. It's better for your health, mental and physical. But unfortunately, I had something happen to me the other day that is a consequence, a real world consequence for speaking truth to power, for speaking truth to power against the state of Israel, which is in a state of turmoil and I'm not going to say it's death throes, but it's definitely on its way out. And if we have played a small role in making that happen, then I know it was worth it. For just the second time in my life, I was fired from my job. And I have a pretty good idea of why I was fired. Now, I can only say so much because obviously I don't want to hold any ill will towards my former employer. I understand why they did it. And, you know, the part of me could just say, well, that's not fair. I knew what the risks were. I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew that this was a possibility. And one day you can wake up, make a conscious effort, and somebody who shouldn't, or I would say shouldn't, that's not the right word. Somebody who finally saw it and decided that they were going to flex their muscles. Now, I'm not going to get into the specifics because I don't, like I said, I'm not going to tussle with my former employer. There's no point. However, what I will tell you is that I received the letter of termination just before close of business yesterday, because of course they would do it right on the weekend spot. So that way you don't have an opportunity to actually talk to the people in charge and say, hey, can we talk about this? But that's over with now. Can't talk about it. But I could tell you that there was somebody, you want to call them a sort of a guardian angel, if you will. There was a person within the organization that reached out to me in private and told me what was going on. And what was going on is that somebody of exceptional power and influence within the Jewish diaspora in South Florida wanted my head and was going to make sure that they got it. Now, when you work for an organization, they have to weigh the pros and the cons. Are the cons worth it? Are the distractions worth it? When the Israel lobby hones in on somebody and they want to get rid of them, they will go to who they have to go to in order to make sure that it gets done, because it's not one person you're dealing with. You're dealing with an army. This is what they live for. They live to make people's lives miserable. Randy Fine is too busy rolling in his filth in a pig pen. He don't have time to worry about me. The person in question who decided to say something off the record as to why I was let go, even though they will never put it in writing, they'll never admit why they did it. People within the Israel lobby decided that they were going to start a harassment campaign against my employer until they fired me. Like I said, I hold no ill will to my employer, former employer. They did what they feel they had to do. Okay. Now, is this going to stop me from continuing to speak my mind and speak truth to power? Of course not. And I'll land on my feet. I always have. I'm not worried. I made sure to have some semblance of a backup plan. Now, it's going to take a while, because one of the things that happens, and one of the reasons why losing a job is tough, especially when you're in my line of work, there's a lot of data entry. There's a lot of notes. There's a lot of emails. There's a lot of, it's called, client relationship management, CRM. There's a lot of information, and that takes time. It takes effort. And that's one of the drags, the true drags of losing a job. Having to go through that process, it can take weeks. You don't want to miss anything. It's very important. You got to stay on top of it. Now, I think for the most part, I take pretty good notes. I think I stay on top of a lot of that stuff pretty well. So in that respect, I'm not totally worried about it. However, this is one of the primary reasons why people don't speak up, because they fear that this could happen to them. And as I said, this was the risk that I knew was on the table. I knew that there was a risk involved, many risks involved. I've mentioned this, time and time again before, but I will point out that this is not the first time that I've had something negative happen. I've had stalkers, I've had harassers, I've had people calling my phone in the middle of the night, leaving voice messages, threatening messages. This is what happens. When you become a public figure, you don't have a choice. You either can accept that this is what's coming with it or you don't. Which is why, when people, got on, Hassan Piker or Tim Pool, for example, when they were getting swatted, hey, these are the risks. They're very real. I don't wish that on people. But this is the modus operandi of the Zionists. This is what they do. This is how they keep people in line. They threaten people because right now they control the levers of power. And right now they have them. But they're not going to have it forever. Eventually, we will win this fight. It's a good thing my father doesn't watch my podcast, because if he does or did, I'd be hearing from him right now. My father does not like the fact that I'm involved in politics. My father has always fancied me as somebody who could go out and make $1 million a year if I wanted to. He would rather me just make money, because in his mind, that's the way you stay happy in this world that's falling apart. But if the injustice is here and it's right in front of our face and you turn away from it, how do you live with yourself? How do you cover a segment like we covered the other day of that Palestinian toddler who was burned all over his body with cigarette butts because the IDF fuckheads had nothing better to do than to torture an innocent child? And you could just turn around and pretend like that doesn't mean anything? Or that, well, it's not my problem? It is our fucking problem. It's all of our problems. No one is better than anybody else. I'm so sick and fucking tired of listening to people, not just little Ben, just people in general, who do not understand that you're not better than anybody else. You're just lucky. That's it. I got very lucky in life. I don't have everything that I want. You can support our PAC. You can support our channel. Any support is appreciated. I always recommend Patreon, but any support is obviously appreciated. Being here is helpful. Smashing that like button, sharing this conversation, sharing this out to people on various channels who may want to have me speak on this issue, because I'm living proof of it now. I had the rug ripped out from under me in a big way. Now, Jen will say it's for the best, and it probably is for the best, because I do believe that everything happens for a reason. I'm going to go work for somebody now who's going to respect me and appreciate me and is going to let me say what needs to be said without worrying about if somebody from the Israel lobby is going to call them up and threaten them with endless harassment if they don't adhere to what they want. These people are insane. They're insane. Their entire ideology is insane. Now, normally we would say, okay, so they're insane. What's the big deal? The big deal is it directly affects our daily lives. That's the difference. It affects our daily lives. And it doesn't matter if I stay in Florida or not. That has nothing to do with it. We have come a long way in terms of what we see and what we don't see. But the cat's out of the bag now. For so very long, we tried to say things that, people looked at you and thought, that's just conspiratorial. It's not possible. I know people who still think Oswald acted alone. There are people who choose to live within that matrix. But the real truth, the living that real truth, living without blinders, recognizing the world that's in front of us for what it is. It's not sunshine and rainbows, and it's never going to be. But you can make it tolerable because people have to be willing to tolerate others. Fear of the unknown, deciding that you don't like somebody because you don't know anything about them. That was the whole point of the segment that I did earlier on Adam Sosnick. It's not just the fact that Adam Sosnick is a moron and doesn't have the weight to stand in a ring, literally and figuratively, with anyone with prowess. It's the fact that he is the embodiment of everyone within that movement. They're dumb in more ways than one. They're ugly inside and out. And they control a lot of what goes on within our domestic and foreign policy agenda. And now that we can see it, it's imperative that we fight back. I don't want or need sympathy. What I want is for each and every one of you to fight harder than you're already fighting. If anything, what has happened to me should just motivate people to fight even harder. And even if things work out with the person that I will go to work for next, regardless of whether it works out or not, what the Zios do is not going to stop. They're not going to stop doing this. They are not going to stop trying to ruin people's lives because they're exposing them for who they really are and what it all is about. I got to tell you, Kelly, that sounds quite enticing. I can't do that, Mehdi. Can't do it. It's not worth it. Not in my line of work. Just got to take my medicine, move on. And Kelly, if you're on the east or west coast of Ireland, Hoth is my favorite place. Absolutely love it. Mehdi, there's a thing in life called you can't beat City Hall. It's a saying that goes back a long way. If you understand the law and how it doesn't apply to certain people at certain levels, you'll understand this. Was I unjustly let go? Yes. Is it worth fighting? No. It's just not. You have to weigh. It's kind of like, well, it's like Sun Tzu, The Art of War. That's what it is. You have to assess what's in front of you. All wars, real or not, are won and lost before the first shot is ever fired. When the Donald comes out and says, well, I didn't really think Iran was going to be fighting as unfairly as they're fighting. You know what that says? It says that Iran read Sun Tzu, The Art of War, and the US and Israel didn't. Iran has made it very clear that the only way this ends is on their terms because they're in control. And they have also made it clear that they are just getting started. There is a difference between rooting for Iran and rooting against Israel and the US billionaire ruling class. I am not a victim. I am just another casualty that they could not put down. I'm not here to tell you my life is over. I have to put it on my record that I was fired, but whatever. Worse things happen. But I will say that I have no regrets. I have zero regrets. The only thing that puzzles me, and I mean this, the only thing that puzzles me is that I have been working for my employer for 3 years. Many of them knew, including one of my former brokers who reached out to me privately and said, I really love your show and I love your message. That meant a lot. So we can surmise that whoever was behind this had nothing to do with the organization. Whoever's behind this was somebody within that Israel lobby that didn't like what I had to say and decided to make an example of me. So who is the most likely culprit that would have done such a thing? Well, as we pointed out the other day, somebody named Damon Rosen decided to come to my Facebook page, personal page, out of the clear blue sky after I had posted what I posted weeks before and decided to start trying to start shit with me and people in the chat. So I looked him up, and it turns out that this person is pretty close to Laura Loomer. And I pointed that out at the beginning of last week. By the end of this week, I lost my job. You don't think there's a correlation there? I do. So if you all want to do me a favor and do me a solid, put it out there on social media that Laura Loomer got me fired. Make her deny it. But if you put the pieces together, and there's really not that many to put together. I mean, it's kind of right there. It's like 2 + 1 is 3. Like, that's how easy of an equation this is. Because I can't think of anything else. Is it possible that there's some other explanation? Yes, but what has history always taught us? The most logical explanation is often the correct one. Was Charlie Kirk murdered because some furry decided that they had to just end Charlie Kirk's life? Or is it possible that Charlie got in the way of empire in a big way and he had to be made an example of? I know that's a little bit more convoluted, but Occam's razor, it's the most logical explanation. Of all the people that would have wanted to see my head on a platter, Larry Loomer is the most likely culprit. And Loomer, Looney Loomer, has real pull. She's connected to the Mossad. She is an advisor to the President of the United States. You think somebody like that doesn't have the pull to get me out of my job? Of course she does. The question is, did she do it? I believe she did. Okay. If that's the fight she wants, then she's going to get it. I'm not going to sit on my hands and allow this to continue. We will continue to say what needs to be said. You may have won a battle. You will not win the war. In fact, the war's already been lost. You're going to stretch your remnants as far as you can. But let me assure you as we continue to enter into this revolutionary period, we all have the minds of an elephant. We will remember. And eventually, the boomerang is going to come back in your direction, Loomer. Take your victory lap. Give yourself a pat on the back. It's after 9:30 on a Saturday night. Knowing you're probably getting lushed drunk over at Mar-a-Lago. So ham it up with a few of your aristocratic friends and talk about how you made another example of somebody who dared question the state of Israel. But that's for now. So like I said, enjoy it while you've got it. It's not going to last.